Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ask Jess. I am Jess Marcy. I'm a clutter coach, and I come live every Tuesday at 1:15 Eastern Time to answer the questions that have been submitted during the week. If you're on here joining me live, say hello. If you're watching the replay, which is always available, just have to click on click on the screen and it starts playing. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. We have 4 questions this week, 5 questions this week. One of them is kind of like a 2-part question. So let me dive right in. How do I keep my piles from becoming mayhem while I'm still sorting? I have so many boxes of to-dos. And then I think that this is a second part of that question. When and how should I go through my like stuff? How much is too much of an item? Okay, so when we start decluttering, we create a lot of temporary chaos. That means we're pulling out boxes or bins or emptying drawers or closets, and there's a lot of commingled items mixed up all together. The first step is to declutter those items, so get rid of all the excess, but then to sort like with like. You have to declutter before you organize. If you skip the decluttering and go straight to organization, it's probably not going to work because you probably don't have enough storage for your items. And if you don't have enough storage, it doesn't matter how well organized everything is, it's never going to stay organized because you don't have the basic structure to support your organization. So declutter has to happen first. And as you're decluttering and sorting and pulling things out, it just creates a mess. It almost feels worse than when you started. So it's called temporary chaos for a reason. It is temporary. You're going to get past it. You have to keep going with the process. At some point, though, you do end up with lots more boxes of like items, and it's hard to know when is a good time to stop what you're doing, go through those to-dos, and put things away. Also, if you don't have the space to put them away, it can get really complicated. You have to just power through a lot of this, but I will say, when you have maybe a few boxes of to-dos, stop and do the to-dos. If you have papers and there's a lot of to-dos in the papers, you have to follow up with somebody, you're not sure if you need to keep a financial statement, all of that stuff, those are all to-dos. Actually get them done so you can make real hard decisions on those items. When I go through my like stuff, what is too much of an item? This is a question that only you can answer. You know what your lifestyle is, what your day-to-day looks like, what your schedule is, what your family culture is. You know what is important to you and what is not important to you. You know what you're using and what you're not using. And everyone has a comfort level with how much they like to keep on hand. Me personally, I've been doing this for so long. I like to have the barest minimum on hand because I know that every single item that I have takes up my space, it takes up my mental energy, it takes up my time, and I don't ever want to give my precious life to some random object. But it's taken me a long time to get to that point. We had a coach who decluttered and she found 40 something umbrellas. Maybe she chose to keep, I don't know, 5 or something, one for each member of her family. I don't even have an umbrella. So it really comes down to you. You decide how much of each like item you're going to keep. But here is the caveat to that. If you decide that you love shoes, you want to have lots and lots of shoes, shoes represent your identity, shoes are your favorite collection, that's fine. You can keep more shoes than your next door neighbor, but you need to create storage for those shoes. If you don't have the storage for that collection, other collections need to shrink to accommodate the collections that are most important to you. This is all about you and your space. Everyone also has different amounts of space and storage space. Now, when I say create storage, I don't mean go out and buy boxes or bins. That is the wrong thing to do. You want to use the storage that comes with your house. Closets, cupboards, a dresser works, but we don't want to get into that habit of going to our local big box store and buying plastic bins or plastic drawers or anything like that. That's terrible storage. It has no place in your home. It's actually just awful. Maybe occasionally a few bins for decorations, like holiday things or very specific collections. But in general, live within the storage space that you have. If your temporary chaos is feeling overwhelming, take a break and go through it and try and get it as close to its final home as you can. So if you have a bin of bathroom stuff, but you have no space in your bathroom, can you put that bin temporarily into your bathroom, right? So just move it there temporarily. So at least it's right in the bathroom. Does that make sense? You decide how much of your stuff you're going to keep, but you have to support that decision with appropriate storage in your house. And the more that you can let go of, the easier your life is going to be, period. There is just no question about that. The more that you can choose to declutter, the easier your storage and organization and every second of your life is going to be moving forward. So if you're spending a lot of time debating, well, I could possibly use this in the future, or I spent money on this, I would declutter that mindset immediately because it is not helping you move forward at all. Every single thing that you have, every object in your house, everything that you own, you are exchanging your life for that item. And your life is the most important thing here. Nothing matters as much as your time, your mental space, your energy. Nothing. No amount of money. Nothing. All right. That was question number 1/2. Question number 3. My husband is being a slacker lately when it comes to decluttering. He keeps saying, I'll get to it later, or can we do this another time, or I have other priorities this week. A number of things are in the way of my decluttering mission. I do need him to help me move things as well as make decisions about getting rid of clutter. As an example, we are in our 60s and he still has books and other things from his early school days. That was in the 1900s. So my question is, what can I do about this? Please help. Okay, this is a great question. When we start decluttering, it becomes our own mission. And we tend to think that everyone in our household is going to be fully on board or really want to help or be really supportive because maybe they've been complaining about the clutter for a long time, or some of the clutter is their clutter. But the reality is, when we start, we need to focus on our own stuff. Nobody else is on the same timeline that we are on. So I always advise you to start with your own stuff and things that you have executive decision-making control over first. We cannot declutter other people's items for them. That is unethical, and it can be traumatic for some people. It is frustrating when you're trying to declutter and no one else seems to be working with you. So recognize that even though this is your priority, it may not be other people's priorities. But as you keep moving, working on your stuff and what you can work on, other people will come along when it's the right time for them. I would try not to impose too much of your timeline and expectations on another person in your house because it could actually cause them to delay this process on their own. I'm reading this and I hear your husband is saying, I'll get to it later, or can we do this another time, or I have other priorities this week. I would really encourage you to be an active listener in the situation, hear the feedback, and see if there's another path forward before pressing the issue too hard. Yes, we need other people in our homes to help. Yes, everyone has clutter that needs to be addressed. But I promise you, you're going to get there faster if you can change your communication patterns, remove some of your expectations from the equation, maybe be more clear with your expectations. Like, if you're going to get to this later, can we put a timeline on this? There may be some underlying reasons why other people are resistant to work on this stuff. And no matter how well you know somebody else, you may not fully understand those reasons. So just keep focusing on you and what you can control. If you need help moving stuff, that seems like a very reasonable request. And if you request that and it still doesn't happen, can you find help elsewhere? Do you have children that can help you? Can you hire teenagers who live next door? Can you get college hunks hauling junk to come help you move stuff? Can you make this happen on your own if you're not getting the support that you need from your family? A lot of the decluttering process is a process of empowerment, learning what resources we have available to ourselves that we hadn't thought of before, learning how to make things happen on our own. And I know decluttering can be lonely, dealing with clutter can be lonely. That's why we have these communities. That's why we have the groups that we have on Facebook, because doing this alone sucks, right? But fighting against the tide of your family over and over and over again also is not moving you forward. So go into our communities, post your successes, post your struggles, and figure out, is there a way that you can move forward right now on your own stuff that does not rely on somebody else who's not willing to give you help in this moment. Once they see your progress, once they see the changes that you've made, and they don't feel super pressured to make a lot of decisions, I promise they're going to start working on their stuff and moving in the direction that you're moving in. But we just have to give people time to do it on their own. So you keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is incredible. Create as much space in your life, in your own, whatever space you have in your house that's yours. Go through your stuff, make your stuff perfect. Find ways to move forward right now that don't rely on the person who's not willing to help. I know this advice kind of goes against the tide, but it's just practical from what I have heard and seen working with thousands of families in the past. So let it sit and simmer for a little while, because I think that you might be able to find a way moving forward that feels better than this situation. Okay. I recently joined because I have lived simply for many years, but I now find myself with stuff everywhere. I need the stuff gone, but make excuses to keep everything. Okay, I love it when you submit a question and then you put the exact answer into your question. I need the stuff gone, but make excuses to keep everything. So what is at the bottom of those excuses? And I'll tell you, it's not laziness. A lot of people say, I'm just lazy. You're not lazy. There's other reasons why you're hanging on to stuff and why you're making the excuses. I think it can be helpful to play the why game. So ask yourself, when you hear the excuse, ask yourself, why am I making this excuse? And then whatever your answer is, ask yourself why for that answer. And then continue asking yourself why until you get to the root cause. A lot of our hanging on to stuff is rooted in, number one, being a human who loves to collect resources. Remember, humans have been collecting resources for millions of years. It's been an evolutionary advantage that has gotten us to where we are today. It's no longer an evolutionary advantage, but we're trying to undo millions of years of this way of surviving, literally an evolutionary advantage. Number two, it's rooted in our childhood. We were taught to keep and cherish, and everything is worth something, and we're bad people if we throw out stuff. We just don't live in that world anymore. We have to unlearn a lot of things that we learned as children. Emotional attachments to things are real. And why do we have those emotional attachments? Because of some transition that occurred in our life. Maybe the transition was super obvious, like you lost a loved one. Maybe it was a little less obvious, like you're grieving the loss of a life that you thought you were going to have, or something like that. Sometimes it's great to have a therapist involved in this. But if you find yourself making a lot of excuses, keep asking yourself why those excuses exist, and then address those reasons. And I guarantee you'll start seeing yourself make changes once you figure out the underlying cause. Okay, I just joined because I'm tired of being overwhelmed with stuff and I'm too embarrassed to ask people over. I'm 73. We moved to our dream location in 2005. My husband retired early due to medical issues, and I thought I was retiring too. But then our family moved in for different reasons. They lived with us for a year and a half, and we ended up having a second house built for them. When I first moved here, every room was pretty neat. I had energy to keep it organized. I started working from home, but I still had time and energy to keep it up. Then 4 years ago, I had a medical event which left me with no energy. I'm a nurse, but never knew how much fatigue I would have after this event. We're a couple hours away from any decent stores, so Amazon became my friend. Even when you live close to stores, Amazon becomes our friends, unfortunately. We get deliveries frequently, and the clutter has grown. I started to begin little projects, which will hopefully lead to big accomplishments, but it will take forever. I've lost many of my close friends. I need to change my habits, which I find difficult at my age. I'm here for motivation and ideas. I think just writing this out hopefully was pretty helpful. You've been through a lot. You have been through a lot. It sounds like it might be beneficial to have other people come and help you if there is anybody available. It's the holidays. Maybe as a gift, you can ask for the gift of time. Are your family members able to come over and give you 1 or 2 or 3 hours? I would also encourage you, number one, stop the flow in, right? That's the basic. Stop the flow in, increase the flow out. Stop the flow in, break up with Amazon. Just give Amazon the boot. Delete your credit cards that are stored on your phone and on your computer. Do whatever you can to not be triggered into purchasing something that you are then going to have to declutter later on. Break up with Amazon, stop the flow in, challenge yourself to have nothing coming in for a month or 2 months or 3 months. See how long you can go. And at the same time, increase the flow of stuff going out. What can you easily let go of? Can you fill up your garbage bins every single week? Make sure they are chock full. Can you order or see if there's a donation center that will come and pick up items from your house? So schedule a donation pickup. You can do that at donationtown.org. Figure out ways to get stuff out of your house that are not all overwhelming and consuming. If you completely stop the flow in and increase the flow out over the course of a couple of months, you will see a noticeable change in your house. I would also be ruthless with decluttering, especially you mentioned that you're 73. Be ruthless with decluttering. Does this support my life right now? Does this support my life right now? That's the question to keep asking. If the answer is no, if it doesn't support your life right now, if it's not relevant to your life right now, let it go so that you can live in peace. Live in peace because you have been through so much, as we all have, and we all deserve to live in a peaceful environment. Prioritize that over any single thing. All right. That was a great series of questions. I'm so grateful to everybody who submits questions. It helps to keep these Ask Jess segments going. If you have a question that you need answered, make sure that you send it to our support team, support@prioritizeyoursanity.com, or post it into a group. If we're going to respond to it, we will put a message in there. So if you don't see a message, just try tagging Amy, who's your coach in It's All Clutter, or try tagging any coach. We get so many notifications. We try our best to see them all, but sometimes you have to notify us multiple times. So apologies for that. It's the nature of the Facebook. And anyway, thank you for your questions. Have a great rest of your week. If you're doing a boot camp this week, amazing. We are loving working with you. Keep up the good work. Keep leaning into our communities. They are there to support you. Sending you all lots of love this week.